In this part of the session, you will learn what an array is, different type of arrays, and how to declare and initialize a single dimension array. What is an array? An array is a container that holds a fixed number of values of a specified type. Specified type in the sense it can be any data type. It can be an integer, float, character, or a string. Say, if I want to store roll numbers of all students in a class, we can use an array of type integer. Similarly, if we want to store details of account holders of a bank, we can go for an array of specific class. Arrays are of different types: single dimensional array, two dimensional array, and jagged arrays. Let us begin with single dimensional array. Now let us see how to declare an array. Like any other variable, array can be declared by data type followed by a variable name. You need to specify the type of the values you are going to store, followed with square braces and a variable name to declare an array. For example, if you want to store prime numbers in an array, you can specify the type as an integer, open and close braces, and a variable name primes, in which we can store set of prime numbers. You can also declare a variable like this: data type space open and close braces and a variable name. Or else you can also declare a variable like this: data type space variable name and open and close braces. So you can use any of the format or any of the syntax to declare an array. When you declare an array, it creates a reference variable of primes and stores in a stack memory. Now that we have understood how to declare an array, let us see how to define an array. Defining an array means specifying the number of elements you are going to store in an array. The number of elements you are going to store has to be specified with a value size, and the new keyword allocates the required amount of space to store these number of elements into an array variable. For example, if you want to store 5 prime numbers in an array, this is how we have to declare a variable: data type, a variable name primes, and new data type and a size. New will allocate the required amount of space to store 5 elements of integer type and refers to this particular variable. This is how the memory allocation happens. Prime is a variable name which holds an array elements which stores in a stack, and the element values which you are going to store will store in a heap. Key point to remember: in an array, the index starts from 0 and ends at 1 less than the given size. So in this, as we mentioned, the number of elements to be stored are 5. The index starts from 0 and ends at 1 less than the given size, that is 4. The first row indicates index and the second row indicates values. The moment you define an array, it initializes the array elements with default values, that is 0 in the case of an integer, 0.0 in the case of double, false in the case of boolean, 0.0f in the case of float, with a null in the case of string or any class object. Now that we have seen how to define an array, we will see how to initialize an array. Initializing an array means providing some sort of values into it. Say, in our variable primes, if you want to store prime numbers, by default you can just use the syntax int primes equal to the set of values to be stored, separating them with commas in open and close curly braces. So let us see what will happen when you initialize the array. See, at appropriate index the values have stored. At 0th index the first element is stored, and the 4th index the last element is stored. So far you have learned how to declare and initialize an array. Now you will learn how to retrieve and modify the elements in an array. You can read an element from an array by passing an index of a particular location. If you want to display all the elements, here is the code which displays all the elements from an array primes. The loop should iterate from 0th index to 1 less than the given size. This loop will iterate 5 times and print the elements at primes of 0, primes of 1, primes of 2, primes of 3 and primes of 4. When you execute this particular code, it will read the element by element from the primes array and print 2, 3, 5, 7 and 11 values from the primes array. You can use any of the looping statement to iterate from an array and print the values. If you want to read a value from an array at a specific index, you can directly specify the variable name primes of some index. Directly it will read the value from that particular index. So random accessing of elements from an array is also possible. Now that we have seen how to read the elements from an array, you can also modify the values in an array. Let us see how to modify the elements in an array. If I want to store the multiple value of a prime number in a particular index, then we'll write the following code. For int index equal to 0, index less than 5, index plus plus, primes of index equal to primes of index into primes of index. This will read the element from an array, multiply with the same value and stores that multiplied value in a same index. This is one example of modifying the elements from an array. This is one of the example to modify the elements in an array. Now we'll see how to copy an array into another array. If you want to copy an element of an ordinary variable like int a equal to 10 into another variable, you can simply say int b equal to a, where the value of a is copied into b. In the same way, using equal to operator, you can copy an array into another array. Int variable name equal to the other variable name. So the elements from prime will be copied into the new prime. Using equal to operator, we can directly store all the elements of one array into another array. This will not create a new array. This stores the reference of that corresponding array into a new variable in stack.